serve often. Once again, this country abroad, we're deeply appreciative of your commitment to defending the security of this nation. I know a lot of work goes into preparing for a confirmation hearing like this, but now you will have to get ready to sit and wait, because we will move you out of this committee and then you will run into the Republican blockade that exists on ambassadors on the floor of the United States Senate. I can't imagine anything more dangerous than not having an ambassador, an incredibly qualified ambassador, in Poland right now, as Russia amasses troops on Ukraine's border, as Putin and Lukashenko use migrants to destabilize Poland and Europe. And so I'm glad that you're here. But this is a mounting national security crisis for this country. The fact that we have 85 pending State Department nominees, half of which are before this committee, half of which have cleared the committee or are on the floor. Ambassador Bass, I wanted to ask you about this because you are an experienced diplomat. You are going to be in charge of overseeing the management of the department. I just came back from Belfast and London, where there's a very complicated, very important negotiation happening around the Northern Ireland Protocol. Could compromise the Good Friday Agreement, something that the United States cares deeply about. We don't have an ambassador to Dublin. We don't have an ambassador to London. We don't have an ambassador to the EU. Makes it kind of hard to conduct diplomacy without people in those top posts. What impact does it have when we have a lack of ambassadors in place in so many key places around the world?
Senator, thank you. I think it creates, first and foremost, a degree of uncertainty for host governments and companies and others in that society about whether the person in charge is really speaking on behalf of the nation at the highest levels of our government. We've got great, talented, dedicated professionals serving as chargés all around the world. But they're a bit out of position, and I think too often people look at them as a temporary solution, and particularly if they're trying to advance our interests in ways that are uncomfortable or create a cost for the local government, there's a tendency to want to wait them out. So definitely has an impact on our ability to be effective overseas.
These chargés are excellent, but make no mistake, there are countries in which chargés cannot get ambassador-level meetings. There is a different level of public diplomacy that can be conducted by a chargé than an ambassador. There is just a fundamental difference, no matter how qualified and experienced many of these chargés are. Second question for you, Ambassador Bass. Let me first just associate myself with the remarks of the ranking member on this question of pushing our diplomats out beyond the wire. Both he and I have legislation, complementary legislation, that we hope you'll take a look at that could reset the incentives to allow our diplomats to be out there representing America beyond the walls of the embassy. But I wanted to ask you a specific question around vaccinations for Americans abroad. We've vaccinated our diplomatic employees, but we have a lot of Americans living abroad in countries where the host country is not actually vaccinating non-citizens. So our citizens living abroad have only the choice to come back to the United States in order to get vaccinated. Can you commit to being in a conversation with this committee about how we may be able to find at least limited means in certain specific countries to be able to provide access to vaccinations for Americans living abroad? I know this is a big project, maybe beyond the scope of the State Department if we talk about every American living abroad, but there may be a way to target this to those who have no other option than the American government.
Senator, I'd welcome the opportunity, if confirmed, to work closely with you on this to find ways to ensure that Americans are getting at a minimum, equal access to vaccines on local economies from local governments, particularly in the vast majority of cases where our medical professionals, because they're not licensed in those countries, are unable to do that directly. So happy to follow up with you.
And Mr. Nathan, thanks for our time together. Just a quick word from you on the opportunities to fund energy projects abroad. We have expanded out the mandate of DFC to allow for energy financing projects to be done in non-developing nations. But as we talk about China and Russia, this is a particular opportunity for the DFC to go out and build renewable energy capability in countries that are desperate to find sources other than petro-dictator regimes like Russia.
Thank you for the time that we spent together, and thank you for that question. Under the European Energy Security and Diversification Act, the corporation is authorized to operate in Europe for energy-related projects, and that would be a priority of mine.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Schatz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and